Grand Rising family, joyous rising, welcome. Come on in the room, check in, and let us know where you're hailing from. We're so happy to see everybody. Come in, we have an amazing podcast scheduled for you today. But first, let's listen to some introduction music as you gather yourselves, say hello to the Soul Tribe, and get comfortable. We're going to talk about how President Trump is already creating policies to ensure that all countries are on a level playing field and revaluing their currencies. This is significant for those of you that are invested in foreign currencies or stocks, bonds, real estate, and other countries. So even if you're not, this is something you want to listen to because a lot of people are a little upset about having to return to their homelands because they don't know the amazing plan that the president and other prime ministers and prelates have in store for their countries. So check in, let us know where you're hailing from, and we'll get started in just a few minutes. Come on in the room, check in. I'll turn off the camera just to you until everybody comes in.
Dr. Kia Preet, shining wisdom's light, teaching soul tribe how to see through the night. Ancient scriptures and bloodlines she knows, spreading truth wherever she goes.
Good to see everybody. Check in, family. Come on in. Welcome.
Raising vibrations for one and all. Dr. Kia shows the way to a brighter, freer day. Through her channel, knowledge flows, breaking chains that hold us close, teaching paths to abundance and wealth, guiding others to free themselves. Soul tribe rising, hear her call, raising vibrations for one and all. Dr. Kia shows the way to a brighter, freer day. From currencies to investments divine, she's helping her tribe to realign with wisdom, ancient and new, showing what we all can do.
Welcome. I see someone from my home state, Ohio. It's good to see you. And rising. Sister Jamie, brother Jamie's good. You good to see you, Sin. All right, Kelly, Grand Rising. All right. Louisiana's in the house. Jeffrey Short is here. I am feeling wonderful. Come on in the room, family. All right, Soul Tribe. Well, thank you for coming in the room today. We have 99 people here so far. Please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share the video if you find this video helpful because we want to talk about some things that a lot of people have been wondering about. Welcome. I see you, Toya. Love to all, abundance and prosperity. Louisville, Kentucky's in the house. All right, that's where I raised my children for 20 years. I lived there. It's good to see you. Northern North Carolina is in the building. Come in, family. So we don't have that many people here yet. We have about 106 people, and that's okay because I have not linked my other social media platforms to this discussion, but everybody's welcome. I just didn't do it yet this morning. I don't know if I will or not. So we're going to talk about President Trump working hard along with other prime ministers and presidents to ensure that we're on a level playing field with all nations around the world. Greetings. I see Chicago in the house. Grand Rising, Ocean View. I appreciate you. Hi, beautiful Dr. Kia from South Carolina. Greetings to you too. So President Trump is working very hard, not alone, but with other nations and prelates of their nations to ensure that we have fair trade agreements and to ensure we have working relationships with one another all across the board. Now, we've talked about Operation Sandman, also known as Project Sandman, many times, which is an agreement between 209 nations to, when triggered, stop trading with the US dollar and use their own local currencies for trade. That was huge when these countries agreed to do this. And what they did is they made sure that they implemented dropping the United States dollar for trade through the BRICS bloc. Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa were actually countries that united to form trade deals and trade agreements with and between and amongst themselves. But this expanded into them making an agreement called Project Sandman to stop trading with the United States dollar. And the reason why they wanted to stop trading with the United States dollar is because the USD, the United States dollar, is something that was printed out by the Federal Reserve central banking system that had enslaved the world. And the Federal Reserve central banking system is part of the United States Incorporated. The United States Incorporated is not the lawful government here in America. The lawful government is the Republic, and we have a constitution for the Republic. But our lawful government and our constitution was usurped by bloodline families or overtaken by bloodline families who had called themselves the United States Incorporated. They incorporated themselves in the state of Delaware in 1871 as a nonprofit religious organization with the Pope as the head. This nonprofit religious organization is a corporate entity, like a business. They have their own constitution called the Constitution of the United States Incorporated. Well, countries all over the world were enslaved by the United States Incorporated, that group of bloodline families that usurped authority from our lawful republic after they had enslaved the indigenous peoples now called the African American, Black, Negroes, whatever. But they had made them the prisoners of war and then created their own constitution and their own way of doing business. Well, countries all over the world knew this. And because they knew that the rightful heirs of the throne, so to speak, in America, who had the rightful lawful government called the Republic, were prisoners of war. So they knew this and they did not like doing business with the corporation that had enslaved the original peoples here. What made the United States Incorporated the powerhouse that it was that it had the USD that it could force all nations to use for trading. And what made the United States Incorporated have financial and economic hegemony, meaning that they are the powerhouse, was that they had an agreement with Saudi Arabia to get oil from Saudi Arabia only, not Venezuela, not any other nation. United States Incorporated agreed with the Saudi Empire that they would get oil only from Saudi Arabia and protect the Saudi kingdom in exchange for that oil. And they would force all nations to get oil only from Saudi Arabia and use the United States dollar to do so. And if these nations said they didn't want to use the USD, they wanted to use their own local currencies, or they wanted to use gold, then United States Incorporated, not to be confused with America and our republic, the corporation would send military to those nations and declare war on those nations. They would either declare war or they would put sanctions on those nations for not wanting to do business with the corporation. But like I said, all these nations all over the world knew that the rightful people, the rightful heirs to these lands here in America were prisoners of war, enslaved, used as chattel property to pay off the debts of the United States Incorporated. So you had Putin, who was angry with the United States Incorporated. You had Spain, then the Spain leader who was angry. And you had Colombia, the Colombian president that was upset with the corporation. You had, who else? North Korea. This is why we've always been told that these people are our adversary. We must fear Russia. We must fear North Korea. Because these nations knew that the rightful heirs to the throne were subject to the British Crown and to the United States Incorporated that had agreements with the British Crown, okay? So again, what made the United States Incorporated the powerhouse, having financial and economic hegemony that it had, was their agreement with Saudi Arabia to protect their kingdom in exchange for getting oil and forcing all nations to get oil only from Saudi Arabia. And they must use the USD to do so. So this is why countries all over the world peg their currency to the USD. They knew better. If they didn't do it, they would get unalived, or their countries would go through war or have sanctions put on them, like Zimbabwe, like Venezuela, sanctions that destroyed their economy because now no business and no countries, no business, nobody could do business with them. So they did all they could do to destroy these nations. They would put sanctions on them, or they would declare war on those nations. And what would happen when they declared war, the United States Incorporated, on those nations that refused to do business with the United States Incorporated? Their infrastructure would be destroyed through war when the United States, went into those countries and declared war against them because they didn't want to do business with the corporation. They would destroy the economy. The infrastructure would be destroyed. Businesses would be destroyed, and their currencies would be devalued. Whenever you have war or sanctions placed upon a nation, the economy gets bad, inflation goes through the roof, and then when you have inflation, that devalues their currency. So nations all over the world have been suffering because of the actions and behaviors of the United States Incorporated. Again, those are bloodline families, many of whom may not be human, or they're human hybrids, meaning they're entities that are not human that made it with human beings, and now those people that they created are put in place in high places. So when the United States Incorporated would declare war on these other nations, this would devalue the currencies. This would cause their currency to have high inflation. This would cause the people to become impoverished. It would destroy the infrastructure, destroy the GDP of those nations. Well, people in power knew a secret. They knew that if they go up into those countries that were significantly devalued, their currencies were significantly devalued because there was a sanction placed on those countries or due to war, then the people high in power, bankers, corporate leaders, prelates, presidents, government officials, military that was high-ranking military officials, they knew that if the currencies were devalued because of war and sanctions, that at some point the currency would have to be reinstated back to its pre-war value or pre-sanction value at some time. So once those countries would go through sanctions or a war, and they became ravaged through, the infrastructure was ravaged, people high up in certain places would buy the country's currencies that were devalued, because now the currency, most of these nations that had sanctions placed upon them or had war declared upon them, their currencies were outperforming the United States dollar, which is why these countries did not want to use the USD. They're like, our currency is 3-1, 3 Iraqi dinar or 3 Kuwaiti dinar against 1 USD. These countries were outperforming the USD, okay, United States dollar. So the United States Incorporated would send military in there, destroy their economy, destroy their infrastructure, destroy everything. Then their currencies would devalue. So people in the know would go in, buy those currencies that had been devalued through sanctions and war, hold on to those currencies, because they knew that the United States, that had declared war on these countries, was actually financing both sides of the war. So they're going to win either way. Didn't matter if the currency devalued. They knew that after the war, and this is exactly what happens, the United States would then go into those countries, the same countries that they declared war on, destroyed their economy. They would then go into those countries and rebuild the infrastructure. Then when they rebuilt the infrastructure, their GDP would go back up, their currency would be reinstated back to its pre-war value or back to its pre-sanction value. And then all those prelates and military officials that were high up that had bought the currencies at a low rate during the war or during sanctions would go back in, go into the banks, because they were holding on to those currencies that had been devalued. And now it's a reinstated rate. So say it was $3.16 above the USD before war. After war, it went down to 16 cents against the USD. So they would buy those currencies that had been devalued, wait till after the war, the United States Incorporated, rebuild the infrastructure, even place in the new leader, whatever they want to do, but the currency will be reinstated, and everybody that had bought the currency at a low value can go to the banks with that reinstated rate. And this is how many people became millionaires and billionaires, but we didn't know it. These were bankers that did this. These were military generals and high up officials that did this. Welcome. These were presidents and prime ministers that did this. And we, the everyday people, had no knowledge. You can look at Kuwait in 1991. In the interest of time, I'm not going to bring up those articles, but it happened in Kuwait in 1991. The Kuwaiti dinar was doing extremely well above the USD. But then when war was ravaged through their nations and through that part of the world, the Kuwaiti dinar went down in value. People high up in military, CEOs of banks and corporate leaders and prime ministers then went in the banks with the new value after the war, or the reinstated value after the war, and they became millionaires and billionaires. That's right. Well, now the creator, source, the ancestors, the Galactic Federation even has decided that this is the prime time or opportunity to awaken the masses and let them know that if you avail yourself, you too can reap the benefits from countries all over the world revaluing and reinstating their currencies. So they're going to do more than a reinstatement. They're not just going to reinstate their currencies back to the value that it was before the United States Incorporated took over and destroyed these countries and their economies through war and sanctions. They're going to do one better. They're not going to just reinstate the value of their currencies. They're going to revalue, assess a new value to their current currencies. Each country will do this. How can they do that? Because all countries have repatriated their gold back from the Vatican. The gold that was stolen from these nations have been repatriated. Also, countries have worked with different other nations to help them mine the gold and mine the precious metals that is in their nation. So all these countries have resources that will back their currencies. They have precious metals, they have rare earth minerals, they have land that can back a currency, water, agriculture, all these things can back a currency and will. And even human resources is a resource, and it's the number one resource actually in the world. All of these will back their country's currencies. So they're not just reinstating their currencies back to the pre-war, pre-sanctioned values, but they're revaluing. They're like, look, now we have access to our gold, our precious metals, our rare earth minerals. We have trade deals. We have so much, precious stones, artifacts. And people are returning back to their homelands, which will also support the nation. So the human resource that was sent abroad, many of whom came here to the Americas, they will go back home and they will get to enjoy the bounties of their nation. So let's talk about revaluing of currencies and why that's significant. Because when you devalue the currency and you put, inflation upon the people, high inflation, prices go up, the people now live in perpetual poverty. They can't keep up with inflation. They can't afford bread, water. They cannot afford homes. They can't afford anything. And what happens when you can't afford to live in your nation? Well, you will start peddling drugs. You become involved in criminal activity, trafficking little ones, doing all type of things just to make a living, or even make agreements with the cartel because you need money to survive. Or you would go to other nations that are doing well at the expense of the people in those nations because you're only concerned about yourself. We have many people from other lands that come to the Americas and enrich themselves with the wealth of America. But now you have the Trump administration and others saying we have to preserve the wealth in America for Americans, but at the same time, we're creating opportunities and forging allegiances through Project Sandman and other opportunities and through the OECD, which we'll talk about later, that will help to release the wealth that is in those nations so that people can now go back home and live well. Thank you for being a new subscriber, Queen. We appreciate you. Grand Rising. So bear with me for a minute, family. This is going to make sense, okay? Let me release this video to the public that I want to show you of President Donald Trump saying that he's been concerned about currency devaluations. He said this during his first administration. Okay. President Trump said, as far as the currency devaluations about which Dr. Kia Pruitt just spoke, okay, this is President Trump speaking. As far as the currency devaluations, I've been complaining about this for a long time. And I believe that we will all eventually, and probably very much sooner than a lot of people understand or think, we'll all be under a level playing field, because that's the only way it's fair. That's the only way that you can fairly compete and trade and other things. And we will be on that field. And we will all be working very hard to do great for our country here in America. But it has to be fair, and we will make it fair. Now, it'll make sense in a minute. I'm going to put all the pieces together, family. Just bear with me. This was under Trump's first administration. He said he's been concerned about currency devaluations. Why would he be concerned about currency devaluations? Because if the currencies in other lands are devalued, they have no value, and the prices of everything has been inflated in these other nations, they will flood our borders and come here to the Americas. They won't be concerned with how we're doing, if we're struggling, if we're poor. They won't care, because self-preservation is the first law of nature. So President Trump knew, while he was saying, I'm concerned about devaluations of currencies, that all along, nations all over the globe said, we're working to destroy the United States Incorporated government and the Federal Reserve Central Banking System's USD, United States dollar. And the way we're going to do that, these 209 nations said, is to, when triggered, stop trading with the USD. What was the trigger? Stay with me. I know I'm moving fast. The trigger to, or the catalyst to all these countries dropping the United States dollar was Vladimir Putin. When Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, declared war against Ukraine, then Biden got upset and Biden put sanctions on Vladimir Putin for exposing all the things that were going on in Ukraine, all the deep underground military bases, all the money laundering, all the nefarious activities, the labs that were created allegedly to release certain things upon populations to make us sick and maybe get rid of us. Vladimir Putin, when he declared war on Ukraine, exposed all of that. A lot of that information went to James Comer, who is the chair of the House Oversight Committee. You can go to oversight.house.gov and you can see that James Comer had gotten a lot of information on Joseph Robinette Biden, the then resident or president, and many other presidents in the Biden crime family, because of what Vladimir Putin exposed that was going on in Ukraine. So that incensed Biden. He put sanctions on Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin then went to the BRICS bloc. Remember, I said Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa was a bloc or a group of countries that had agreed to do trade deals, trade amongst themselves, but also to destroy the United States dollar. So Putin went to the BRICS bloc through a BRICS meeting, and he said, Biden just put sanctions on me, but I'm not afraid. I'm going to use my own Russian ruble for trade. I'm going to stop trading with the dollar, and you are going to follow my lead. When Vladimir Putin stopped trading with the dollar in 2022, after he declared war on Ukraine, which then inspired Biden to put sanctions on him, the Russian ruble became the strongest performing currency in the world. We've reported on that. You can look it up, 2022. So then you had Vladimir Putin to tell the BRICS bloc, follow my lead. All of you start kicking out colonists, European colonists, out of your nations, and don't worry about it because the United States military secretly is working with me, Putin said. You don't believe it? Then read about and listen to Motu Proprio, which is a letter that was actually written by Pope Francis in 2014. That letter was sent to President Obama. He said, the United States Incorporated is not the lawful government in America. It is a corporation that was incorporated in 1871. He said, we're not a lawful government. Presidents are part of the corporation. They don't represent the people. They're not a part of the republic. He said, therefore, I, as the Pope, must step down. Presidents must step down because they're presidents of a corporation. Court officials must stand down. Policy enforcers, which enforce the policies of the United States Incorporated and not concerned about real laws, policy enforcers, known as police officers, must stand down. And if we don't stand down, the Grand Army of the Republic will be formed with General Ham at the forefront to take the United States Incorporated down. That did not happen. Even though he sent the letter in 2014, nobody stood down. But what happened 10 years later? We don't even have to talk about what happened 10 years later. That letter was sent to President Obama 2014. 2 years later, President Trump came in as the president of the United States Incorporated under his first administration, and he was the leader that was chosen by the military and the Grand Army of the Republic to take down the deep state, also known as the United States Incorporated. This is why they got so mad at him under his first administration and accused him of, colluding with oligarchs all over the world, and mainstream media called him all kinds of names because they didn't like and appreciate the fact that he was the one chosen by the military, the Grand Army of the Republic, as the president of the United States Incorporated to take down the corporation. In order to take down the corporation, the president has the authority and the power to use executive orders, which is a part of the deep state United States Incorporated, to systematically destroy the United States Incorporated with the help of the military. Not only the Grand Army of the Republic, but also Nasara White Knights, which are military from all over the world, and some of whom are galactic beings that are helping to systematically destroy the United States Incorporated and liberate humanity. So let's go back to Vladimir Putin. He said, we're systematically destroying the United States Incorporated by refusing to trade with the dollar. We're going to stop trading with the dollar. We're going to use our own local currencies, and we're going to have military backing by the Sarah White Knights and military white hats. They knew, Putin knew that Trump and the United States military was helping to liberate humanity. So 2016 is when Trump came back, but you fast forward to 2022 when Putin put sanctions on Russia. I mean, when Putin of Russia put sanctions on Ukraine. Then he went to the BRICS bloc and said, okay, now we need to put in place Operation Sandman. And all nations stop trading with the dollar one by one, or at least they agreed to do it. And they started backing up their currencies with precious metals. Now we're going to speed up to where we are today. But before we go there, 10 years after motu proprio, after Pope Francis said our time is up, we got to all stand down. If we don't, the Grand Army of the Republic will be formed. 10 years later, after 2014, what happened? 2024, the Supreme Court of the United States overturned the Chevron Doctrine, which had given the United States Incorporated unlimited powers to create any statutes, codes, policies they wanted and force us to live with them. But in 2024, that was overturned. This is why the government here in America is under a shutdown. We're under a partial shutdown. People are losing their jobs because the corporation is being dismantled. I hope I'm not going too far ahead of myself. Let me know if you need me to slow down or explain anything. I'll take questions. But we're under a partial government shutdown. Remember, the shutdown occurred last year. They only opened it up partially in order to do business, but the government is insolvent and broke. Okay. Now, I'll go back to now how we know that countries around the world are revaluing their currencies. Back to what President Trump said under his first administration. I'm going to bring up that video right quick. He's been concerned about currency devaluations for a long time, but he's going to put something in place to make sure we're on a level playing field and therefore revalue all countries' currencies. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Hi, Bill Harding. It's good to see you. Segment Fire God is in the house. Hi, Rich Pritch. Traffic cops are trafficking us. Cops earning the hate, he said. If I need to slow down, just let me know, or answer some questions, just let me know. Listen to what President Donald Trump said under his first administration, because he's been working to make sure every country is on a level playing field. The BRICS bloc started that when they all agreed to stop trading with the dollar, all 209 nations, and use their own local currencies. Do you know the first nation that joined the BRICS bloc was Saudi Arabia in 2022? And that was huge because remember, what made the United States Incorporated have financial and economic hegemony, meaning making them be the powerhouse that they were, and what made the United States dollar the world reserve currency was the United States Incorporated having agreements with Saudi Arabia to protect the Saudi kingdom and protect their oil in exchange for their oil, and force all nations to only get oil from Saudi Arabia, and they must use the United States dollar. That's what made the United States Incorporated have financial and economic hegemony. That's what made them the powerhouse that they were. That's what made the United States dollar the world reserve currency. But when Saudi Arabia joined BRICS in 2022, BRICS became known as Saudi BRICS. That destroyed the agreement between the United States Incorporated and Saudi Arabia, unbeknownst to most people. Then the following year in 2023, the verbal agreement And the signed agreement was not renewed in 2023 because they'd already made the move. Saudi Arabia joined BRICS in 2022. BRICS became known as South BRICS. Then other nations started joining BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa coalition. And BRICS became known as BRICS Plus. By the end of 2022, by October 2022, 85% of the global population had joined the BRICS bloc. That meant that the United States Incorporated was destroyed because almost the whole world, 85% of the global population, had joined BRICS. They agreed to stop trading with the dollar. They were making systematic moves to accumulate wealth, to repatriate their gold, their precious metals, their rare earth minerals back to themselves. And they were making agreements amongst themselves to help each other mine the gold. Andy Schechtman, the CEO of Miles Franklin Precious Metals Company, came on my podcast along with me in 2022 to report that the BRICS bloc was coalescing against the West, not just against the West, but really against the United States Incorporated. And as an aside, if you're interested in gold and silver, I would encourage you to contact my affiliate, Miles Franklin. He's been on my show for years informing the masses. You can contact Miles Franklin Precious Metals Company at 952-929-7006 or send an email to info@milesfranklin.com and let them know that Dr. Kia Pruitt referred you so you can get the best prices in the industry, because family, the whole world is hurtling or rushing back to gold as money. And back then, people were concerned, what's going to happen in America? And I said, there is no way the world is going to rush to gold as money and America would be left out. And I was correct. Not because I know it all, but because I had studied. I knew that state after state in America, they were passing legislation to repeal or remove the state sales taxes from precious metals. Because by removing taxes from precious metals, you are freeing up metals to be used as money. And you are acknowledging that precious metals is not a commodity. Precious metals is not a mere collectible. Remember, according to the Constitution, you may not tax money. These nefarious people that call themselves United States Incorporated taxed gold and silver after they stole it from us and told us it was a relic, it was outdated, it's not money, and made us use their USD. States are taking their power back here in America. And they're using their authority to pass bills and legislation, which is part of the deep state. They're using the tools of the deep state, just like President Trump using executive orders to demolish the deep state. They're using the legislation and bills against United States Incorporated to remove sales taxes from precious metals. And that when they do that, they're acknowledging that precious metals is money, because the Constitution says the only thing that can be used as money is silver and gold. The only thing that can be used to pay off debt is silver and gold, according to Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution for our lawful republic. It defines the dollar as a fixed weight in silver and a fixed weight in gold. These nefarious beings have put taxes on gold. State legislatures are removing the taxes from the gold, thus freeing up gold and silver to be used right now as lawful money and legal tender to buy local goods and services. That's why I encourage you, if you are in the market to do so, to buy silver and gold. But if you're not, it's okay. You'll be okay. We'll all be okay, because we're going to all experience universal high income. We talked about that. I don't have time right now. Essentially, universal high income is money that's rolled out to everybody, the sovereign nationals in the country, so that they can live a wonderful, amazing life, because their country is really wealthy. Even though it had been enslaved, even though we had prisoners of war here, even though you had lands that were held up by the United States Incorporated, those lands have to be free now that the Chevron doctrine has been overturned by the Supreme Court in the United States in 2024. So now we'll be able to enjoy the wealth that we have, the gold, the silver, the rare earth minerals. Remember Wyoming a couple years ago, there were 2.34 metric tons of rare earth minerals discovered in Wyoming, making us the largest, the nation with the largest amount of rare earth minerals in the world. surpassing China and some of these other nations, we'll be able to enjoy this wealth that had been captured by the United States Incorporated. Lands blocked off, rare earth minerals, gold blocked off in the Grand Canyon, which is why they won't let us go up in certain areas. All this has to be now released. Okay, that was the trillions of dollars that economist Jim Rickards was saying would be injected into the global economy. I talked about that in my private group. All this money will be released, and you'll have access to your trust. We all have a trust that our birth certificate bonds is attached to, and that our social security card is attached to. Your social security number is attached to a Federal Reserve central banking system. All that money that we have in our trust, when our birth certificate was monetized and securitized and traded on stock exchanges and accruing interest, all that went into a trust for each of us. And those monies were supposed to offset our living experiences here in other nations as well. That, as well as nations have what's called a sovereign wealth fund. President Trump created a sovereign wealth fund here for Americans in 2025. And he said then the sovereign wealth fund is comprised of real estate, precious metals, rare earth minerals, trade deals monies, oil, and other resources. And that sovereign wealth fund, he said, is for Americans. It will be to invest in the American people, to invest in our economy and infrastructure, and maybe even to invest in some other outside places to bring more wealth to we the people. He said all nations, he said this in 2025, have some type of sovereign wealth fund, especially oil-rich nations. They take care of their people. Their people get a significant amount of money every month. This is not to be confused with universal basic income. Universal basic income is a small allotment of money that will help you with your basic needs like food, water, and shelter. No, we're going to have universal high income that will come from the sovereign wealth fund and your trust attached to your birth certificate bond. We all will have an allotment of money every single month, a high amount. That's why they call it universal high income. Look it up. You can even look on my channel. I've spoken about it. Economists are now speaking about it. Elon Musk, who is a billionaire, some call him a trillionaire, is now speaking about it. We will all get those monies. So you don't have to worry about it if you don't have money to get silver and gold now. But for those of us that are into, precious metals, and we want to pass that wealth down to our posterity, we're just getting ahead of the game. So contact Miles Franklin at 952-929-7006 or send an email to info@milesfranklin.com. Let them know Dr. Kia Pruitt referred you, and you will get the best prices in the industry. So I told you that states are taking upon themselves to make sure we're on the gold standard. And the way they're doing this is they're acknowledging and agreeing with the Constitution that says only silver and gold can be used as money. But they first must demolish the United States Incorporated. There are many systems working concurrently, all together at the same time, to destroy the USD, the dollar that's attached to the United States Incorporated, and to bring them to their knees. Don't worry about which currency we will use. We will use gold, silver, digital assets, and new treasury notes that will be printed by or minted by the United States Treasury Department that's attached to our lawful republic. And those notes will be gold backed. Now, if you remember, the United States Supreme Court, the Supreme Court ruled that state-sponsored banks can operate independently from the Federal Reserve central banking system and create their own gold-backed currency. Issue out their own gold-backed currency. So the states are taking their power back. America is going to do well. We're doing great. They can operate independently from the Federal Reserve, have their own charter, and issue out their own gold-backed currencies. Additionally, the United States Treasury Department ruled in favor of Trump's executive order, or his idea to phase out all paper currencies and use what instead of those paper US dollars that they're phasing out? Digital currencies and gold. You can look up the articles. So my point here is to let you know that America won't be left behind. 45 states already have repealed or removed the state sales taxes from precious metals, thus acknowledging precious metals as legal tender, meaning you can buy local goods and services with gold and silver right now today, and agreeing with the Constitution that gold and silver are lawful money. So the United States is working along with all these nations, the 209 nations that made an agreement behind the scenes to, when triggered, stop trading with the United States dollar. That Project Sandman agreement is in place right now. And you can see this article was printed out, and I caught it when it came out February 23rd, February 16, 2023, that said the world is hurtling back toward gold as money. When you go back to gold as money, you can use gold and all these precious metals, rare earth minerals, and any resource that you have to back your currencies, thus causing your currency to revalue. Okay, let's listen to what President Trump said. Now I'm going to slow down and we're going to talk about Trump's solution for currency devaluations. Listen in. I see your questions in the comment section. I'll get to you.
As far as the currency devaluations, I've been complaining about that for a long time. And I believe that we will all eventually, and probably very much sooner than a lot of people understand or think, we will be all at a level playing field. Because that's the only way it's fair. That's the only way that you can fairly compete in trade and other things. And we will be on that field, and we will all be working very hard to do great for our country. But it has to be fair, and we will make it fair. I think the United States is going to be an even bigger player than it is right now by a lot.
So at that time, he was actually talking about what was happening in Japan. They were making trade deals with Japan. But as you heard him say, he's been concerned with currency devaluations for a long time, meaning that the currencies were losing its value because of war and because of sanctions. So he said he's going to do some things to ensure there's a level playing field so that all countries, will experience fair trade and their currencies will be revalued. Why is he speaking in his first administration about currency devaluations? Because the United States Incorporated was a great part of devaluing all these countries' currencies by declaring war on them, by refusing to allow these countries to use their own precious metals to back their currency, by refusing to allow these nations to do trade with one another. So I want you to listen to this one more time, and then in case you missed it, I'll say what he said. But it's kind of low. The audio is low, so listen very closely.
As far as the currency devaluations, I've been complaining about that for a long time. And I believe that we will all eventually, and probably very much sooner than a lot of people understand or think, we will be all at a level playing field. Because that's the only way it's fair. That's the only way that you can fairly compete in trade and other things. And we will be on that field, and we will all be working very hard to do great for our country. But it has to be fair, and we will make it fair. I think the United States is going to be an even bigger player than it is right now by a lot.
So yeah, he's true. He told the truth. He said the United States will be even a bigger player than it already is by a lot. That again was under his first administration. Lynn, I'm going to explain it briefly, but you're a member of the private group. So any detailed question as it relates to currencies or wealth, you'll have to join us on the weekends when we have our private group meeting, but we'll talk, about it some here. So let me tell you what he said, in case you couldn't hear it. As far as the currency devaluations, I've been complaining about this for a long time. And I believe that we will all eventually, and probably very much sooner than a lot of people understand or think, We will all be under a level playing field because that's the only way it's fair. That's the only way that you can fairly compete and trade and other things. And we will be on that field and we will all be working very hard to do great for our country. But it has to be fair and we will make it fair. That's what President Trump said under his first administration. All of these things I will put in, you're welcome, in the description section for you. Okay. Now, what does it mean to ensure that we're on a level playing field? Give me some time. I'll try to take my time here. You might need to go back and listen to this audio because for the first 50 minutes, I was given a background of what's going on to lay the foundation of how countries' currencies have been devalued and how nations all over the world are moving towards reestablishing themselves as sovereign nation, which includes having their wealth returned back to them and using their wealth to back their currencies and creating fair trade deals and releasing lots of money into their economy and the global economy so that everybody can enjoy wealth. It's good to see Louisville, Kentucky in the house. Thank you. So let me show you my notes here. I will try only be less than an hour. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you my notes and I'm going to briefly go through some things, but I'll leave you with enough information for you to do more research yourself because it's not, necessarily my role to, handheld everybody or to walk them through each step, but to give you something so that you can look into these things and dig into what I show you to prove that it's correct or incorrect. Good afternoon. I see you, Grand Rising. So what do you need to do to make sure that we're on a level playing field? You need to implement these things: multinational trade and policy interventions. You need to build foundational capacities in developing nations. You need to reform global governance systems, put systems in place to make sure countries all over the world are doing what they're supposed to do to play fairly. Now, this isn't saying the United States Incorporated has to do this, but but America, we are the world leader in this. However, remember, there are 209 nations that have agreed to this. So they have systems put in place like the World Trade Organization, like OECD. And I'll talk about what OECD is. So again, you need to have multinational trade policy interventions where everybody's ensuring that there's fair trade amongst nations. You need to build foundational capacities in developing nations. Third world nations are developing nations, nations that are growing, okay? They're becoming developed. They're developing themselves. They have to have strong foundations so that they can be okay, and support from other nations, because we're making sure everybody's on the level playing field. Everything should be equitable and all countries' currencies will be one-to-one. And reform global governance systems. So the old government systems that were in place were only the United States Incorporated controlling and dictating to other nations what they should do, can do, and cannot do. The United States Incorporated was putting in certain leaders, taking out others. They were devaluing their currencies. They were putting sanctions upon nations that didn't want to play along with the United States, or nations that didn't want to use the USD. They were doing all type of nefarious activities. They were making agreements with the cartel to allow drugs to be flooded into our nations and drugs to be flooded into other people's nations. The United States Incorporated, those bloodline families did not have anybody's best interest at heart. They're not the lawful government on these lands, and they're not even American. Let's start there. There are bloodline families, many of whom are not human, and other entities and foreign nationals that are not American that were dictating to the world what they should be doing in their lands. We're reforming those global governance systems to ensure that as we govern or manage what's going on with the world, that it's fair, it's equitable, and it's lawful. Not legal according to maritime law and admiralty law, but lawful according to lawful republics all over the lands. And who's providing the oversight over all of this? Well, it's global leaders, and it's also federations, many of whom may not look human. I'll just leave that there. That's why they're releasing all this information about ETs, and church leaders and pastors have gotten letters and memorandums, or whatever you call it, notices that they need to talk to their congregations and let them know about life outside of these lands. I've reported on that, how you can look it up even on YouTube. Pastors are saying, oh, we got this secret letter saying that, that we have to inform our congregation that some of the things we taught in the Bible and in our religions are going to be questionable because we didn't talk about extraterrestrial life. Now we have to unveil that during this era of disclosure. So this is how you implement different things to ensure a level playing field. I want to go over that. You must put systems in place, such as the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, of which the United States of America is a part. And you have policies. I want to tell you the policies of the OECD, how this, I'm proving that these are economic and geopolitical reforms that are put in place to guarantee that all nations are on a level playing field. And when you do this, you're ensuring that countries' currencies will be revalued. Now, remember, the first thing that President Trump said in that clip I showed you is, I've been concerned about devaluation of currencies for a long time. In order to remedy the devaluations of currencies, we have to put systems in place to ensure everybody's on a level playing field. In order to remedy devaluations of currencies, we have to implement certain things and policies in place. And I'm showing you what those policies are: multinational trade and policy interventions, building foundational capacities in developing nations, reforming global government systems. And all this is being done through the OECD, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, which the United States of America, our country, is a part of. And I will talk about the policies. And I'll ask, I had to ask the question, is America part of that? And I said, yes. I'll show you that. Is America part of the World Trade Organization? Yes. Why is that important? Because the World Trade Organization is also implementing certain policies to ensure that everybody's on a level playing field. Then I'm going to show you exactly what President Trump has already done to ensure that we're on a level playing field. This solidifies my dissertation, or my hypothesis, that countries' currencies all across the globe are being revalued by implementing these policies. And then we're going to talk about anti-subsidy trade tariffs and why that's important, because you have to enforce anti-subsidy trade rules and establish label standards in all these nations and make sure there's transparency in all these nations or how they're running their economies. So again, I'll try to go through these quickly, but I'm leaving all this information in the description section for you so you can do your research for yourself. Hey, Ra. I'm in Ra's in the house. That's my grandson, my 8-year-old grandson. He said, hi, hey, baby. I know Granny promised to take you all somewhere, so I hope you got some places that you've written down, okay? And as soon as we get finished, grandson, we will go wherever we decide based on what the weather is, or based on, what's available. Miss Cap Awakening says, blah, blah, yeah. If this is not resonating with you, you have some ideas where you want to go, then please, Miss Cap Awakening, dismiss yourself, or I'll dismiss you for you. Okay. So first line of business, we're talking about what President Trump and this nation is doing to ensure that all nations are on a level playing field. Now, this isn't just about revaluating currencies, and this isn't just about becoming wealthy. This is about liberating humanity. Because when you make sure all countries are on a level playing field, trade agreements have been made, equitable trade deals have been made, countries' currencies have now been not only reinstated back to their pre-war and pre-sanctioned values, but countries' currencies have revalued. Then once those currencies have revalued, all countries will be one-to-one with each other. Their currencies will be one-to-one with each other. This is wonderful news. It's great news for people who have fled their countries seeking better opportunities. Now they'll be able to go back home and enjoy wealth from their sovereign wealth funds, from the Nasara benefits, and from their own trust attached to their birth certificate bonds. And they will be able to enjoy having currencies that are one-to-one with our new lawful gold back currency that we will have in America, that will come from the United States Treasury Department, which is part of our lawful republic. Thank you. Thank you. And just like that, says Dr. Kia, what a beautiful pink tree in your background. Thank you so much. So this is great news, not just for America, but for the whole world. If you're listening here and you may be a foreign national that live in America and you might be concerned about deportation, just know there's something amazing going on in the background. Your country's currencies are being revalued. If you're part of my private group, we show how countries in Vietnam, Venezuela, Zimbabwe, Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria. Remember the Syrians that have to go back now because 6,100 came here in 2012 due to civil war, and now they're being deported, and they're a little upset and worried and frustrated about that. In my private group, we're talking about how sanctions have been lifted from Syria, and their currencies, which have been sanctioned, now are in the process of being revalued back to their pre-war value, and have a greater value placed on their Syrian pound or their Syrian currency because their country is now free. There's no civil war, and the resources that they had that was held up and stolen by other lands have been returned. Okay, so if you are a foreign national here in America, then just please research or listen to my podcast, because I'm sharing with you what you can do. When you go back home, you won't be impoverished. You will no longer deal with war. 209 nations, when they agreed to stop trading with the United States dollar, also agreed and use their own local currencies for trade. They also agreed to world peace. Okay, this is why President Trump created the Board of Peace, which has over 30 nations that have joined. The last time I checked, I don't even know where it is now. The Board of Peace is part of Project Sandman. It was born from Operation Sandman or Project Sandman. They agreed to world peace. I know we're hearing about conflict now. Soon as that's over, remember they saved Israel for last. Soon as that's over, you're going to experience world peace. No more civil war, no more unrest. The Bible, if you follow that and know that they actually write in the Bible prophecies, which is really what they're going to do. Okay. They said they agreed to 1,000 years of peace. What happens after that 1,000 years is up to what you and I do right now, which is why I'm all about family continuity, accumulating wealth, and protecting that wealth, and then leaving a legacy. Because right now we're able to enjoy wealth based on what many dynasties have done to accumulate wealth. They're using the wealth that they accumulated outside of the system to help liberate humanity. That's why you keep hearing about the White Dragon Society, ancient dynasties. The Philippines have ancient dynasties that have gold and silver. The Rodriguez Trust, the St. Germain's Trust, the King Solomon Trust. These are families, family offices, family tribes, bloodline families, benevolent ones that have accumulated wealth over hundreds and some say thousands of years for not only themselves and their posterity, but to help liberate humanity. So if you're concerned about your posterity, meaning your future race, your future generations, your bloodline, and the human family, then when you're able to consider accumulating something that will help liberate humanity, create businesses, create something to leave a legacy or an impact, so that after we're transitioned, if we decide to transition or transcend and go into wherever we go from after we leave the earth, whoever's left behind, make sure they'll never be enslaved again. And if some nefarious beings try to enslave them again, ensure that you have enough wealth secured, accumulated, and protected so that your bloodline and humanity will not have to be slaves to whatever system tries to creep up its ugly head. So 1,000 years of world in peace, world prosperity and peace is what the Bible says, and other documents say we will experience. What happens after the 1,000 years is left up to what we do now. So let's stop um, being too worried, and let's be concerned about how we're going to leave a legacy behind. What is the impact you will leave behind for your posterity and for humanity in general? My impact that I will leave behind is that I'm raising the vibrational frequencies of the planet, and I'm helping people all over the world to live their most amazing, magnificent life that they desire and deserve. I teach how to become highly self-actualized. I teach how to be responsible and accountable. I teach about family continuity because I'm concerned about family, wealth, and legacy. And I encourage everybody to leave an impact as well. So if you're interested, though, to go into detail about wealth, accumulating assets, and you want to, some people, if that's a part of my gold membership group, will get my book for free. I just got finished with the final edits of my book. You can join the channel. You see the link here. I will also put a link in the comment section. We have a silver group and we have a gold group. All members learn about foreign currencies. Like I just talked about Syria. We knew last year that Syria's sanctions would be lifted. We knew last year that Syria was about to experience wealth. We knew last year that Syria might be a country for us to invest in because countries like Syria, Iraq, Zimbabwe, Vietnam, Venezuela have asked people to come and invest in their countries. They've asked investors to look at their countries because they're now open for business. We've been talking about this now in our private group for a year, but I've been talking about this for over 10 years. But if you want to go into detail, then join a private group and we'll go into detail about wealth accumulation. We're going to also bring someone to talk about life insurance, whole life, and how those things can add to your wealth. We're going to talk about other ways to invest to secure a foundation for your posterity. We go into detail in our private group. It's 11:11. Happy 11:11 for those that are in Central Standard Time. Is it Central? Yes. Here in Eastern Standard Time is 12:11. But that's the private group link. Join a private group. I just finished editing my final rounds of my book. Let me show you my manuscript, which talks about many of those things that I speak about, both publicly and private. This book is pretty lengthy. We talk about, what am I doing here? We talk about this. I just finished the manuscript. Well, no, I didn't just finish. I just finished the final edit. We talk about the evolution of money, what money is. We discuss 3 pillars of investment. We discuss how to accumulate wealth, how to protect wealth. And we threw in there information about gold, silver, and copper, precious metals. We talked about the BRICS bloc and why BRICS is important to liberate all these countries that have been enslaved through the United States Incorporated. And finally, we talk about family governance and how you can govern yourselves accordingly as we're ushering in a whole new golden reality. Okay, we share with you how to have a family mission and vision, how to talk to your family about wealth, and how to bring them on board as it relates to accumulating and protecting wealth and assets. So for people to ask, why are you always talking about wealth? It's because I'm the minister of wealth. It's because that's my calling. That's my purpose. I talk in the book about how you can develop a constitution, meaning how your family is to govern themselves around the values of wealth, how you can create a mission statement, a vision statement for yourself and your family. It doesn't have to be about wealth, but as the minister of wealth, that's what I talk about: family, wealth, legacy. Thank you. And just like that says, what an achievement, adding to your many life's achievements. I'm so elated for you. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for leaving my Cash App. I appreciate that. God bless you. Yes. When I wrote the book, the reason why I wrote it was actually because I wanted to leave a legacy behind for my grandchildren. I said, what do I want them to know about their grandmother if I decide to ever transition out of this body, this physical body? I want them to know that I'm concerned about our legacy. And this is how I'm going to share the information with generations to come. I'm going to leave a book behind. But as I started writing, I said, you know what? I'm not just concerned about my posterity, I'm concerned about the world. I never want to see us enslaved again. I told my pastor back in 2005 when he asked me, what is your purpose? I said, my purpose is to liberate humanity. And that's exactly what I'm doing. So let's go on through the notes here. I know I have 400 people here. Okay. So thank you so much. Hit the like button, please. How can a nation or nations ensure that their countries are on a level playing field with each other? The first thing I said was multinational trade policy. So let me show you. I'm going to bring up a website here. Let's see where it is. Here we go. Thank you for staying with me, family. All of this is in the description section for you. Give me about 50 more minutes. I'll try to make this quick. What can countries do? Where is that? To ensure they operate on a level playing field, economically and politically. The global community must establish mechanisms that prevent unfair competitive advantages while boosting the foundational capacity of developing nations. So the global community must establish mechanisms that prevent unfair competitive advantages. One of the things that President Trump was concerned about was these nations such as China importing their goods here in America with no taxation. But if we imported goods into other nations, we were being taxed. That is an unfair competitive advantage for China, you see? So now we have to establish mechanisms that prevent unfair competitive advantages. What did we do? We started putting tariffs on China. You tax us, we must tax you. Okay. Additionally, President Trump met with China in 2025, and he's brokered a trade agreement between China and America that was amazing. And he set the precedent for other nations because those were the two economies. America's the first largest economy, right? And China's the second largest economy. When those two made trade deals and trade agreements, now other nations must fall in line. So President Trump brokered a huge trade deal with China last year in 2025. And he also brokered trade deals with the Middle East that brought in trillions of dollars, much of which will go into our sovereign wealth fund. He brokered trade deals with China, the second world largest economy, and with the Middle East, brokering trade deals in amount of trillions. He's also taxing China and other countries that have been importing goods here, with no taxation, but then making us pay them taxes. This is another reason why the United States Incorporated has to fall down, that corporation, because they allowed this to happen. So thanks be to goodness for the constitutional judges that's a part of the Supreme Court that overturned the Chevron doctrine that gave the United States Incorporated so much power to do whatever they wanted to do. So the United States Incorporated now has to be dismantled because the Supreme Court in 2024 of June said that the corporation is unlawful, unconstitutional, and treasonous. And any judge that went along with anything the United States Incorporated did, they committed treason. And any judge that knew of a judge that went along with the shenanigans, they committed misprision of treason. They all going to jail. That's why we are having massive arrests with judges and government leaders. They're either being arrested, forced to step down and resign, but their assets are being frozen. If you don't know who's being arrested, check out info.resignation, or is it resignation.info? One of those, either info.resignations or at resignations.info. But, sometimes when I try to put that up, sometimes I'm flagged, so I have to be careful. It's info.resignation. Let me see. You will see world leaders. You will see world leaders on that list. You will see corporate entities, bankers, all of that. Okay. So you have to put systems in place. Let me go through this quickly. What else do you have to do? Achieving a fair international framework requires balanced policy interventions, robust multilateral rules, and localized capacity building. If you're part of my private group, you know many of you, even that's here in the public, have invested in the Vietnamese dong, the Venezuelan bolivar, the Zimbabwean zim, the what else? Iraqi dinar, and others. Some we don't talk about publicly, and others. You know that in many of those nations in which you're invested, they're already doing this or have done it. They've put in policies, policy reforms, banking policy reforms. They've put in economic reforms. They've implemented rules to ensure that their banking system and their monetary system and their trade deals are transparent. So that's what another reason why you would want to join a private group. We've been talking about all these economic reforms and banking policies for over a year now. And we position ourselves as such. This is why a lot of the new leaders, such as the leader and prime minister of Iraq, have a finance background. No more, many of these new leaders are not politicians. They're businessmen, entrepreneurs that have a banking or finance background because they understand money. They know about economic reforms. They know about banking reforms. They know now how to implement policies to make sure the banks are transparent. They know how to bring back their businesses that were sent abroad or that went abroad and encourage them to work in their lands. So a lot of foreign nationals are upset because they were here on H-1B visas. They were getting all these interest-free loans to create business, et cetera, et cetera. Now they have the opportunity to go back home because these leaders are calling people back home. They just don't want to let go of the stronghold here because they got freebies. They have fake medical degrees, fake licenses. You don't believe me? There's an Indian right now, an East Indian that's reporting about, and I put it on my post section of my, go to the post section of my YouTube channel. I said, even now the Indians are reporting that out of India came fake medical degrees, fake licenses, fake all type of certificates that were sold from India to the Indians in America or sold to each other. Then they came here and enriched themselves. Well, now a lot of these countries are calling their people back home because they've implemented global strategies and policies, as well as told entrepreneurs, we're going to partner with you. No more are we going to dictate to you what you can and cannot do. Come back home. We'll partner with you. You'll help us create different policies and procedures to put in place because now we're working together to ensure our nation is wealthy. Okay, now we're going to briefly talk about multinational trade and policy interventions. This is when you enforce universal or uniform standards like labor rights and environmental protection directly into bilateral and regional trade agreements to prevent countries from gaining and undercutting advantage through weak local regulations. No more weak local regulations in different varying countries. We have bilateral and regional trade agreements. I'll let you research into that more. You have to curtail distorting subsidies. That means you reform multilateral bodies like the World Trade Organizations. So they have to reform or reshape the WTO, World Trade Organization, to better regulate state-owned enterprise privileges and market distorting industrial, agricultural, fishery subsidies. So why do they have to reform the World Trade Organization? Because the World Trade Organization was not operating fairly, properly, providing oversight to all nations, making sure everybody was on a level playing field. So now they have to reshape it. They have to modify it. And this is what they're doing. And they're doing it through what's called the OECD. And we'll talk about that later. They have to close trade loopholes, update regional frameworks to prevent country hopping, where foreign producers relocate factories to third-party nations simply to evade anti-dumping duties and trade remedies. Now, Before, you had oversight here, even here in America, of the companies that were here, and you can regulate what they do. You can regulate what they do, how they do it, and ensure that they're doing what's in the best interest of the American people. Where as soon as you have somebody like President Donald Trump saying that we don't like the way American companies that were here were doing unfair trade with other nations, and we're going to have to remedy that. You had whatever few companies we had left here that didn't flee to China before Trump run to China. Okay, and then when President Trump, during the tariff wars, under his first administration, the China-America trade wars that was going on between the two of them, the companies that were American-based that had fled to China then fled to Vietnam because they were trying to avoid taxation, because President Trump was trying to tax China because China was taxing us when we would import our goods. They would tax us, but they weren't getting taxed. So President Trump said, I'm going to tax all companies in China. And if you're an American-based company that fled to China, I'm going to tax you too. So you come home and you get taxed just like China. So they ran to Vietnam. As an aside, do you know what happened to Vietnam? Their GDP exploded because those companies that were country hopping that went to Vietnam took advantage of the cheap labor that was there. Vietnam started forging allegiances and trade deals with other East Asian countries. So Vietnam started thriving. They started asking America and investors, come and invest in us. We're doing well. So for people that say, why would you invest in another nation? Well, they asked us to. They're doing well. They want us to help them and to enjoy the prosperity. See, everybody's not greedy. Some people want investors to come to utilize their skills and their money and their energy to help their country grow, and you're getting something in return. It's a fair exchange of energy. So when those countries fled from the US to China and then to Vietnam, Vietnam was thriving even during the global pandemic. Everybody else was shut down. Vietnam's ports were open. I did a report on that called How to Become a Billionaire, Invest in Foreign Currencies. I don't know if that's in my public, I think it's public, or if it's private. But Vietnam, I said, don't sleep on Vietnam. They've been thriving for a long time. They're thriving now. You see people called Black Americans fleeing to Vietnam that don't even know about currencies because they know that Vietnam is doing very well. And you can live very inexpensively there in Vietnam. But they've implemented a lot of reforms and all this. So all I'm saying is you have to close trade loopholes to prevent people from companies from country hopping. And this is what we're doing. We're closing trade loopholes. And that's why President Trump spent so much time in the Middle East in 2025 and in China. You must coordinate tax policies, implement global minimal corporate tax standards to minimize tax evasion. You got to stop people from companies that are located in different countries. They have to stop evading taxes, stop trying to run from tariffs, and stop a regulatory race to the bottom where countries strip revenues to attract corporate entities. So their countries were doing all type of things to gain an unfair advantage over Americans and over some other countries. But in order to ensure that countries operate on a level playing field economically and politically, the global community must establish these mechanisms about which we spoke to prevent unfair competitive advantages while boosting the foundational capacities of developing nations. Another thing that they did that we already spoke about that prevented unfair competitive advantages was for the 209 nations to secretly agree to stop trading with the United States dollar, because the United States Incorporated had the unfair advantage of having the world reserve currency. And they implemented their position by creating wars, and all these nations are putting sanctions on them and forcing them to use the USD to only get oil from Saudi Arabia. So how did you dismantle the United States Incorporated and do away with their unfair disadvantage? the countries agreed to stop trading with the USD. Meanwhile, here in America, we agreed to the same, and that's why states have repealed or removed the state sales taxes from precious metals, so now we can free up precious metals to be used as lawful money. We're systematically working together to destroy the United States Incorporated, who had the advantage, the unfair advantage over us here in America and over the world. What's next on the agenda? These systems were put in place by many different organizations, such as the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development and the World Trade Organizations, the WTO. I see you all have comments. Let me slow down. Hey, let's go. Hey, Rara, what are you asking me? Can they watch Dragon Ball Z? I have to ask, and my grandchildren, they're watching here. I have to ask my daughter, because she stays up on what's going on with, those games and stuff. So you said you learned a lot from them. Rara, are y'all allowed to watch Dragon Ball Z? I don't know if your mom allows you to watch that. Iranian currency, join a private group. We talk about that. And if you'd like for me to go into detail about that this weekend, I will. Okay, Ra, how much time do I have? I said 50 minutes a minute ago. If you can't get silver and gold, I sent Dr. Kia an article about copper. Let them join a private group, because we go into detail about copper there too. Oh, just a typo? You don't know if mommy will allow you to watch that? Okay. Well, somebody in the comment section asked that, Ra. He's 8. He watches this. He's really interested in the BRICS block and, precious metals. Well, because I'm their grandmother. So what I learn, I teach them so that I can leave a legacy behind. So let's go into. Oh, thank you. Sister Sheila says, Ty speaks. You are so correct. Dr. Kia has changed my life in so many ways through the information that she's been providing. I'm so proud of her grandchildren. Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you, Sister Sheila. And you contribute so much to the private group. Like, what is it called? The banking protocol for those of us who will exchange our currencies. Thank you, Sister Sheila. Hi, babies. Mm-hmm. Oh, they want to come and say hi. Mm-hmm. Amen Ra, named after the sun god, and Cherish, which means love, Mi Amor, which is my love. Cherish Mi Amor, Amen Ra. You've seen her on many of my podcasts, and they helped me do a few, her and him, on many of my podcasts, and I think y'all helped me with 1 or 2 of my membership group podcasts too.
Like when there was Chief Mac in there?
When Chief Mac was with us? Yeah. They said, glorious rising, little angels.
Mama, there was people.
Say thank you.
Thank you.
There were people being mean in the comments?
One person said blah, blah. Yeah.
Sometimes people do that because they don't have anything else to do or anything to talk about.
They bored. They don't talk.
Systems put in place to ensure that these are done. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development is such a system.
Let's use my battery.
Okay, so what is that?
Can't see anything.
Ty Speak says that family energy is so powerful and so darn. I'm shedding tears right now, fam. Oh, okay. The OECD, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, is an international organization of 38 democracies with market-based economies. So you have some places that are not market-based, but the ones that are part of the OECD, and they're helping to move these policies along to ensure that everybody's on a level playing field. Its headquarters in Paris, France. It serves as a forum for governments to collaborate, share their experiences, and develop public policies to promote economic growth, free trade, and social well-being worldwide. This is happening in this time in which we're living right now, where governments are meeting and collaborating with each other to do all these things, develop public policies, promote economic growth, free trade. All this is to ensure we're all on a level playing field. That's what we talked about in the beginning of this video. President Trump said, as far as the devaluation of currencies are concerned, I've been concerned about that for a long time, but I'm going to put certain policies in place. We're doing all that we can to ensure all nations are on a level playing field. This is what they're doing. When you promote economic growth, free trade, social well-being, what you're doing is positioning yourselves for your economy to thrive and your currency to be revalued based on the metals and the wealth that your country has. It goes into the history,
Whoa, no.
etc.
The tree.
The tree fell. Bring it back.
It's okay. It's okay.
Bring it back.
It's okay.
Okay.
Ah,
Bring it back.
no, the tree. It's okay, Granny.
Okay.
We'll fix it.
Sorry about that, family.
It's fixed.
You fix that, Mia, and I'll go on with the show. The show must go on. Now, what's next on the agenda to discuss? What are the policies of the OECD, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development? Bring it closer to me. I need it to be close to me.
It's better.
Thank you. Okay, y'all go ahead. Unless you need something. Y'all already got things listed that we're going to do today?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you read your book today? Your books?
I remember.
Okay, while I'm doing this, you need to write the critical piece I told you about. What was the book about? What's your reaction to the book? How can you implement whatever is in the book in your life? How can you put something, whatever you liked about the book, how can you implement it in your life? So your reaction to the book, how you feel about the book.
Yes, ma'am.
That's your it. Okay. Thank you. And make sure it's legible. That means make sure I can read it, because if I can't read it, you'll have to write it all over.
Oh, man.
I know. Got to do that before we go. So let's get moving.
I don't have a good handwriting.
Yes, you do. We're going to practice on your handwriting then. It can always improve. What y'all say? Get them babies. Everything we're doing is for these babies. You're right. Everything we're doing is for the future generations. Okay, so I wanted to talk to you about the policies of the OECD. I got the meaning. Did I bring that up? What are the policies? Hold on. If you're interested in joining a private group, please hit join on any of my videos. Okay, policies. Let's bring that up. Oh, I'm not going to go through all this, but I will leave this in the description section for you, because I want you to have enough information to actually do research for yourself to inform yourself. And, you don't want to just take a podcaster's word for things, and then you want to make sure that they make sense. So here it is. Here are the policies. Trade policy brief, leveling the playing field. Despite positive momentum over the years, market distorting measures are still prevalent and are contributing to rising trade tensions. This policy, but this was February 2019 though, so this is outdated. The OECD analysis helped to improve the transparency and measurement of government interventions that tilt the playing field from market distorting governments support in agriculture, fisheries, and industrial sectors to regulations that restrict service trade. By the way, agriculture, fisheries, industrial sectors, all these things that's being regulated can also back and support a currency. So you need to make sure that the regulations that are put in place are fair and equitable across the board. They're also ensuring better data and analysis that will help the governments to identify what needs to be done to ensure a global level playing field, including to fill gaps in the global trade. This was issued out in 2019. I'm sure there's more updated information, but this is what I have. Okay, so I'll make sure you see that. All I'm doing is ensuring that you know that things are happening on our behalf as a global family. Next on the agenda, is America part of this organization? I just want to show you proof that yes, we're working with these other governments to ensure fair and equitable trade, to ensure transparencies, to ensure that everybody's on a level playing field. Yes, the United States is in an OECD country. In fact, the United States is one of the 20 founding member nations that signed the OECD Convention in 1960 to promote economic growth and sustainable development. And you can go here and look at more details like, are we still a member? Let's see if we're still a member. Today, yes, we're still a member, and there are 38 members. Which countries are not? More than 150 nations do not belong to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. 38 do. But while they don't belong to this organization, they do belong to the World Trade Organization. And let's see, the OECD classifies and collaborates with non-member economies depending on global outreach, development assistance, and economic statistics. So even those that are not part of this corporation still collaborate with these countries. I hope this is providing some value for you. And we might be moving along a little too quickly, but I'll leave all this in the description section for you to read at your leisure. What else is on the agenda to discuss? The reason why I bring up the World Trade Organization is because along with all the things that I said must be implemented to ensure that the world is on a level playing field, you have a few other things that's monitored by the World Trade Organization, like enforcing anti-subsidy rules, like establishing global labor standards. The World Trade Organization monitors those things, and expanding transparency around state-owned enterprises to ensure that all countries and firms could compete on equal terms. Again, all my notes will be in the description section for you. But the World Trade Organization works along with and collaborates with the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Okay, so we wanted to look at the World Trade Organization since they collaborate to ensure that everybody's on the level playing field. And so I wanted to see if America was a part of the WTO. Now, I don't know if we'll ever be removed from the World Trade Organization in the future, but as of today, yes, America is a member of the World Trade Organization and has been since its establishment on January 1st, 1995. And you can review the full details of America's participation, or the United States participation, on the World Trade Organization United States profile. This link and link to all those links is they are all in the description section for you to review. Now, what is the Trump administration doing specifically to ensure a level playing field? Now, when you ensure a level playing field and everybody's trading at the same level, and we all have trade agreements in place, then we can also revalue currencies. That's a part of leveling the playing field. So we need to know what President Donald Trump is doing specifically. I like this. I think I have two different links. Here's one that I really like. And this is just an overview here, but you will have articles on the side that will support the claim. To establish a level playing field, the Trump administration has primarily pursued an America First strategy. He's emphasized reciprocal trade to counter perceived chronic deficits and unfair practices. And there are different actions that the administration has implemented to ensure that America is being treated fairly and properly, because a lot of countries, again, were importing their goods here with no taxes or very little taxes of tariffs. Meanwhile, when we imported goods into their nations, we had exorbitant taxes. Additionally, you had all these countries sending their people here, sending their companies here. All that's been done at the discrepancy of the United States Incorporated. But the American people were suffering as a result. So that to level the playing field, the Trump administration has primarily pursued an America First strategy. That's another reason why a lot of people are being deported. This is a reason why H-1B visas are under scrutiny. F-1 student visas, where students would come here to study and never leave, that's under scrutiny. What else? What's the biggest one? Birthright citizenship and pregnancy tourism, all these different things that enable people to come to our country. DACA, deferred action for childhood arrivals, where they would just send their children here and they would stay forever and never change their status. All this was weighing on our economy. All of this was coming, was happening to benefit all the people, that foreign nationals that came here, but it was harming the Americans, because now that all these people have jobs and government benefits, welfare, food stamps, Section 8, housing, medical benefits, interest-free loans, all of this was coming from our estate. It was coming and happening at the expense of the American people. So President Trump said, Americans first. Now, we're going to do what we can do to work with these other nations to ensure that we have a equitable system to happen, and to make sure that everybody's on a level playing field, as well as make sure everybody has their sovereign wealth funds, make sure they all have wealth. And look it up. Central banks all across the world have been accumulating gold in record numbers over the last 5 to 10 years. Why are they accumulating gold and silver, precious metals, rare earth minerals, all these things? Because they were back their currencies that's about to revalue and be reinstated beyond their pre-war and pre-sanctioned values. So all this is happening behind the scenes. Banks have been accumulating gold in record numbers. I've been reporting on that. You can look it up. If I need to bring up an article for you, I will. Central banks across the globe have been doing this. So the central banks in those countries that have been accumulating gold, they also have new economic reforms put in place. They have new prime ministers and leaders that are now financiers and bankers and not politicians. So they know how to implement those economic reforms and make sure they have banking transparency. All banks all around the world are Basel III and Basel IV compliant, meaning they have to be transparent. They're monitored. They have to have gold as a tier 1 asset, gold as money, not United States dollars, not their dollars pegged to the USD. And they have to have foreign reserve notes, which means other foreign currencies and other foreign reserve tools and apparatuses in their banks, because tier 1 and tier 2 assets protect banks against any foreseeable and unforeseeable economic collapse. So Trump has pursued an America First strategy, trade strategy, so that Americans can be provided for and taken care of. Here are key actions implemented by the administration. We're talking about how the Trump administration is doing all he can, like he said under his first administration in the video I showed you, to ensure that everybody's on a level playing field, because he's been concerned about currency devaluations all across the globe for a long time, he said. Number 1, tariff and trade enforcements. We have to implement and enact tariff increase on imports to numerous countries to leverage trade negotiations and issue executive directives, such as the June 2026 executive order on strengthening customs enforcement to protect the United States businesses and increase compliance across international supply chains. Internationally, every country has to comply with the rules and regulations set forth by the global regulatory bodies that we have all agreed to. So before, we used to tax importing goods. Imports, we would tax them. But what had happened was they stopped taxing goods coming in from China and from elsewhere, and they started taxing the people. This is how you know that those people that are in government, they are not American. They're foreign nationals, and some of them are not human. They're foreign nationals who don't have our best interests at heart. They don't mind taxing us. They're not us. They're not Americans, is what I'm trying to say. So another thing that Trump is doing to implement the American First agenda is what he said in the beginning. I'm going to get rid of the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service, and implement the ERS, the External Revenue Service. We're going to start taxing other countries and imports. And we're going to stop taxing internally the people. Why was the United States Incorporated taxing we the people? Because they did this. First, they started with African Americans to help pay off their debts. Read the letter motu proprio that Pope Francis sent to Obama. Motu proprio. Look at my video called Motu proprio. Pope Francis said, it has been our policy after the Civil War to enslave African Americans as chattel property to force them to pay off our debts. Then we expanded slavery as our policy to force all people in America as chattel property to pay off our debts. You want to know another word for chattel property? United States citizen. Chattel property of the United States Incorporated. Citizenship is chattel property, slave to the corporation that's been given privileges, not rights, but the privilege to vote for the corporation, the privilege to fish, the privilege to get married, the privilege to do certain things. Those are licenses, by the way. Privileges while we're taxing them to pay off our debts. Well, all that's over now. America first. We're concerned about America's no more taxation. The IRS will be done away with. That's why under Trump's first administration, the duties of the IRS, as well as the Federal Reserve Central Banking System, were put underneath the umbrella of the United States Treasury Department. Because according to our lawful republic, the only thing that can deal with money is the Treasury, United States Treasury, not the Federal Reserve Central Banking System. Remember, the Federal Reserve was put on notice in July of 2024, when the Supreme Court of the United States says state-sponsored banks can operate independently from the Federal Reserve Central Banking System, have their own charter, do whatever they want to do, have their own rules, and issue out their own gold-backed currency. The Federal Reserve was put on notice. The United States Incorporated was put on notice the month before July 2024, in June, when the Supreme Court overturned the Chevron doctrine, thus limiting the powers of the government and forcing all 447 government agencies to be downsized and dismantled. That's why people are losing their jobs. Not because we don't care about Americans, but because we do care about Americans. We're no longer going to have this government body. And we unfortunately will lose those jobs. But remember, we have the sovereign wealth fund in place. We have trade deals. We have a lot of things implemented. Some people call it Nasara Jasara. All of these implemented. We have all of these trusts that we mentioned before, King Solomon's Trust, St. Germain Trust. I need to do a video on all of those trusts that will release trillions of dollars to the global economy. So tariffs and trade enforcements are happening right now to make America great again. Again, we didn't used to tax our people in America. That's unconstitutional. We would tax countries for doing business with us, put tariffs and taxes on their imports, goods that were being imported here. But somewhere along the way, we turned on the American people and start taxing us and stop taxing them. Now it's being reversed. What about the USMCA? Trump did this under his first administration. He's been working a long time to make it everybody under a level playing field. United States, Mexico, and Canada is an agreement that President Trump did under his first administration. This is a deal specifically targeted at creating a level playing field for North American farmers, workers, and businessmen through new chapters covering digital trade and labor protections. Remember, I said one of the things that you must do to make sure you have a level playing field is to have labor laws enacted, implemented across the board. So when he implemented the USMCA under his first administration, United States, Mexico, and Canada, we already knew then he was setting the stage to bring Turtle Island back together. Because United States, Mexico, and Canada used to be, one area. That's all North America. What else? So we talked about tariffs and trade enforcement, the USMCA. That's replacing NAFTA. Bilateral agreements and rebalancing. The Trump administration is modifying reciprocal tariffs through strategic arrangements such as Kuala Lumpur joint arrangement with China to eliminate foreign export controls and address retaliatory policies in key industries like semiconductors and agriculture. So they will retaliate. China, if we try to put taxes on them, we'll just retaliate. We will do what they did in what they do about 2022 all the way through 2024, those different semiconductors that were coming from China, they put what they do, they increased the price on it. They increased the price, which means that some industries couldn't afford them. And so the price of automobiles went up extremely high between 2022 and 2024. That was not fair. That was retaliatory because the Trump administration had been talking about taxing China for all these goods they were importing here. So bilateral agreements and rebalancing, they have to now renegotiate. And remember, I told you in the beginning that Trump secured and brokered a huge trade deal with China in 2025. And that was so impactful. And it set the stage and a precedent for other nations to follow suit and make trade deals with America, because China is the world's second largest economy. So they agreed to Trump's terms and conditions, and we agreed likewise to whatever terms and conditions they had. And finally, burden sharing in alliances, challenging legacy post-war institutions like the G7 and NATO. They're being challenged to ensure allies contribute more equitably to defense and resolve disparities in global trade. There were some discrepancies, unfair things happening in between the different nations. So President Trump challenged G7. He challenged NATO. In fact, he withdrew the United States of America from NATO, and he created the Board of Peace. And instead, he withdrew us from 66 international organizations, as a matter of fact, and created the Board of Peace. And he said, I'm doing this to increase and implement the sovereignty of the American people. That's all part of the America First agenda. So what has Trump's administration done to ensure there's a level playing field? Enacted tariffs on imports to numerous countries under tariffs and trade enforcement. Created the USMCA, United States, Mexico, Canada trade agreement to replace NAFTA. Implemented bilateral agreements and rebalanced agreements between many nations, especially China. Burden sharing and alliances, they were challenging post-war institutions like the G7, because the G7 wasn't doing fair and equitable trade. They weren't making sure that everybody was treated fairly across the board, all nations, and challenging NATO. And in fact, he withdrew us from NATO. So that's it, family. In less than 2 hours, we showed how President Donald Trump and other nations are ensuring that we're all on a level playing field. If you're interested in more detailed information about what other nations are doing, please feel free to join my private group. Because in that private group, we go into detail about trade deals, economic reform, policies, foreign currencies, how currencies are doing. I told you, we talked about Syria last year. We talked about, somebody mentioned Iran. We talked about Iran last year. Jeffrey Short is in the comment section. He told us about copper a while ago, as a metal that is very critical. In fact, many metals are now on the U.S. Geological Survey's critical minerals list, of which one is silver. So the critical minerals these are the minerals that are important for technology that will be released in the very near future. If you know about advanced technology that has been hidden from us, and you realize we're in an era of disclosure when all those technologies will be released, like the med beds and energy, different type of energy apparatus, and all these types of things, which should be having free energy, nuclear energy instead of using oil, all these things about which we've been speaking openly, we go into detail in the private group. And this weekend in the private group, oh my gosh, economist Dex Lattimore is coming. Is he coming this weekend? I think, yes, he is coming to the private group, I believe. No, he's coming publicly to speak to us this weekend. And on the private group, we're going to go into detail about Iraq and some other nations. And he said he will go into detail. The economist of the Soul Tribe, Dex Lattimore, is going to speak to the public group here on YouTube about finances, economics, world trade, and why the big whales are moving money right now. And so he's going to give that information in the public, and then he's going to come into the private group to tell us how that's important, why it's important, and what we can do with that information. So that's about it. Trump accounts are here during the announcement. NYSE and NASDAQ, hands folded, Trump, hands by his side. Everyone has been captured. Thank you, Jeffrey. I appreciate you. You're welcome. Ty Speak says, thank you for everything that you do. It's my great pleasure. If you're interested in joining a private group where we would go into detail on why the whales are moving money and where they're moving money to and what that means for America's economy and the global economy, we'll talk about that this weekend, as well as what's going on in Iraq. And if you want to know more about some of the things that people talk about in our private group, like what are the protocols that we need to implement in order to go to the bank to exchange our currencies, what type of precious metals we should consider, all those things, what type of currencies most people aren't speaking about that will revalue very soon and very quickly. Thank you for the compliment. I appreciate you. So join our private group, family, and we will be more than happy to have you. I look very nice today. Thank you, Botanica. Thank you for saying I look very nice. Creator bless you. Before we go, family, I would like to answer any questions that any of you will have. Comms are important. Start noticing the communication. Absolutely. And I also want to thank people because I heard some of you send cash apps. Thank you. Wow, you are so wonderful and appreciative. Thank you so much. If you would like to contribute to my work, then you are more than willing to do so. I would greatly appreciate it and be honored and thankful. And you can send my cash app is $ Mama Kia 13, MAMAKIA 13. And we have used the money to actually pay a publisher to do a lot of things, to pay me to do research, because I do research from all over the globe. I'm connected to and have newsletters from all over the globe, as well as we just wrote a book and paid the publisher for everything, the editor. That book should be released this month. I have one more thing to do. It's been completely edited. It's been critiqued by financial advisors, economists, bankers, editors, just many, many different people to ensure that it's legitimate, that the information is correct, and they made sure I supported my sources. So anything that I said had to be backed up by credible sources. So that book will go out to help us to bring continuity to the family, accumulate wealth and protect wealth, and leave a legacy behind. Thank you. I want to say thank you to Deborah, Sister Deborah. Thank you so much for sending me a gift and the financial donation. Thank you, Cornelius. I appreciate you for sending me a cash app. Thank you, Elliot. God bless you, Elliot sis. Thank you. Oh, Cornelia says, great gratitude given from Harvey, Illinois. Thank you. You all are so amazing. Thank you to Chief Matt for sending me a gift. He said this is a donation. Thank you to Kevin. Thank God for you. You're welcome. Thank you, Destiny. Remote viewing and astral projecting. Woo, are you? Wow, Destiny. I appreciate your gift. Thank you so much. Thank you for the gift, a glass moon. Thank you. Simply Love, I appreciate you. Sister Sheila says this is a monthly appreciation. Simply Love said thank you for your wisdom. You're welcome. Joyce said thank you. Here's a gift for you. Deborah sent the donation. Who else? Latoya says keep shining, beautiful. Thank you. And Valerie said, oh, sold into me to start my garden. Thank you. And you must have watched the show with Farmer Dre from Set Apart Gardens. Please go to Set Apart Gardens and like their videos, subscribe to their channel, and please also go to the Young Elders YouTube channel. I was on the Young Elders show last night, and we did an amazing show encouraging our ladies to live in their soft era, letting them know you don't have to be hard, you don't have to be strong. The men are saying they're stepping up, they're going to provide and protect, they're going to take care of each other and bring each other up to par, up to code where they need to be, so the ladies can rest in our feminine energy. I love that the Young Elder created a safe space for us to talk about how we've been manipulated as women and controlled just like everybody else. We've been under mind control. We've had spells cast upon us and told that you can do everything alone and you're strong, you're independent, you don't need the support of your community or of a husband or of a covenant partner. Well, on yesterday, the Young Elder, here's his channel right here, provided a safe space for us to talk about all these issues. And you'll see I'm right here. We talked about the science of the strong woman beyond the superwoman right here. Dr. Kia Pruitt with my afro here on that picture. But subscribe to the Young Elder. Watch his channel because he provides a safe space for women. He along with Arisha Stone, please subscribe to his channel. I've been on his channel as well. A safe space for us to heal, to talk about certain issues and to grow. And they stay out of our business. They just ask questions or let us talk. So please subscribe to the Young Elder, where I was on his show yesterday. And we met about 3 years ago. But this discussion, the science of the strong woman, was phenomenal. Interestingly enough, he had the science of strong women beyond the superwoman with Dr. Kia Pruitt, but he got flagged using my name. Once he removed my name, they removed the flag. These people something else. And I know that's true. I know it's so because they removed 8 of my channels. I was heavily censored, but the good guys are also watching me and they know that we do good work over here. And let's celebrate that my oldest channel that I had set up in 2017 has finally been monetized. After 11 years, it was monetized in the beginning. They took it down, took the whole channel down when I was reporting about the Brunson brothers winning their case. A lot of people don't know that. I reported on that. They won their case behind the scenes. People just don't know it. That video went viral. People told me I was lying. People still don't know that the Brunson brothers won their case, but I actually interviewed the Brunson brothers who sued Joseph Biden, Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi, and 385 members of Congress. I interviewed Lloyd Brunson twice. I also talked about gold and silver many times, way before people were talking about central banks accumulating gold in record numbers, way before the gold and silver commercials, way before goldback.com came on. I was talking about gold and silver. As a matter of fact, I brought Andy Schectman on many times, and I read his letter where David Schectman, his dad, urged people to get into silver and gold and said, this is urgent. Do it now because central banks are accumulating gold. While I was giving that report, YouTube took down my channel. They've been flagging me for almost 10 years now. But that channel has since been resurrected. And when that channel came back, my old channel, some of you are watching right now from that old channel. When that channel came back, they wouldn't monetize it. I appealed. I begged, I asked. And then at one point I said, I'm starting to feel like I'm being discriminated against for whatever reason. I don't know. How can I appeal to you all not monetizing my first channel that I had in 2017? This is 2026. Today, my channel was monetized. So now I have 2 channels that are up and running, and I'm very grateful and I'm celebrating with you all. So if you're interested, family, in joining a private group, the link is in the description section, or you can hit join on any of my videos. Please join. And if you're interested in silver and gold, like I said, Andy Schectman's been here many times, sounding the alarm, blowing the trumpet, saying something's happening. Countries all across the world are dropping the United States dollar. I was saying we're moving to the gold standard. Andy was like, "Oh, hold on, you jumping ahead of things." And I understand why, because if you mention that before they were ready, they'll flag you. And I've had 8 channels removed because of it. But here we are in a new era. If you want gold, contact Andy Scheckman or from the Miles Franklin Precious Metals Company at 952-929-7006 or send an email to info@milesfranklin.com. Let them know that Dr. Kia Pruitt referred you and you will get the best prices in the industry. I heard somebody send a gift. Thank you so much for the Cash App gift, family. Thank you, Jamira. Thank you, Chief Mac. Thank you, family. That's it. Any questions before we get out of here, family? You're going to keep us all informed? Ooh, you're welcome. What'd you say? Jeffrey said, Dr. Kia, Somalia really didn't have a country, but something is brewing. Ooh, let's talk about that in a private group this weekend. Young Elder does have many interesting podcasts. He talks about extraterrestrials, the Anunnaki, the Sumerian texts. He talks about mermaids, the Nomos, all type of beings that existed, and he provides sources to support his claim. He also talks about what's going on in the world. Rod Hayes, Chief Rod Hayes is a great friend of his. He's had him on. He's had Orisha Stone on many times. Orisha Stone is where I got my jewelry from. I don't have some of my most recent jewelry out with me, but Orisha Stone is another channel that you might consider joining because he can create stones that's just for you. Stones that align with your life path number, stones that align with your birthday. In fact, his motto is wear your intentions. So if you would like to get precious stones made from gold, copper, or other things, and other stones, Orisha Stone is your guy. That's what he looks like. He just did a mineral report with Young Elder 13 hours ago. And Raz Ben and others. Oh, who else was on it? A few other people. He does Matriarch Mondays, where on Mondays women come on and talk about the matriarchy and issues relating to women and how we need to be concerned about women's health and mental health and well-being and women accumulating wealth to pass down to their posterity. He does Chief Talk with Young Elder again, and also with Chief Rod Hayes. They're also, so the three of them, Rod Hayes, known as Chief Pontiac, Orisha Stone, and the Young Elder are very, very close friends that do podcasts together. And just like that says, congratulations, Dr. Kia, you deserve monetization. Thank you so much. I'm very grateful. I'm so happy that finally I am able to be monetized. Unfortunately, Young Elder got flagged for putting my name in his video, so I hope those things change. Joy says, thank you, Dr. Pruitt. What a great teacher. Great teaching. You are amazing. Thank you. You know what, Goddess? I am a reflection of you. You know that? We are reflections of one another. The goodness and the joy and the high vibrations you see in me is what is in you. We're mirrors of each other. You love Ross Ben? Ross Ben is often on Orisha Stone's channel. Yes, the pastors have said they have to now start talking about aliens. Tell me what's going on in Somalia. I'm interested. My grandson is part Somalian. All right. They really had no currency? What about that? They had a Somali currency and a Somalia currency. Those weren't real currencies? Oh my goodness. Who is that? Thank you for sharing my Cash App, $ Mama Kia 13. And thank you all for the gifts and donations. Ty Speak says, flood my granny's pockets. We love you, Doc. You're still receiving an IRS bill and they took your refund. How should they move forward? So write a letter to the Internal Revenue Services and send a copy to the Treasury Department, because you still have some people that's willing to take our money because they know paying taxes is voluntary, but there's still a few of them that's still in there doing bad. Okay. Write a letter and then send it to the Treasury Department that oversees the IRS. and say in the letter, your money has been unfairly taken from you, and you need your money to be returned, and give them 30 days, and I give you 30 days to do so. Or you can say you are unable to pay based on the economic situation. You need your money to be returned. I had told my son to, when they took a refund from him, like right after the pandemic, I said, write a letter to the IRS and send a copy to the United States Treasury Department. In the letter, say that due to economic disparities and issues based on the global pandemic, I am unable to, how did I tell him? I am unable to, how did I have him? In so many words, I told him, tell them that you need your money back based on the economic climate. Since the global shutdown, you've suffered financial hardships. Due to financial hardships based on the economic atmosphere since the global pandemic. Therefore, they took $10,000. I need my $10,000 returned back to me, and I need it returned within 30 days. Within 30 days, I kid you not, all $10,000 that the IRS had stolen from him was put back into his account. He couldn't believe it. He was like, Mom, it worked. And I said, yeah, it did, because we have more power than what they allude to. We just have to use it. And even they say the pen is mightier than the sword. So send them a letter, and make sure you send a copy to the United States Treasury Department. You can have that letter notarized if you choose to, just to, make it to have a little more weight on it. But I would write it and give them 30 days to do so, and then report to us what happens. But I will tell you, all monies that we have paid out to the IRS or that's been stolen from us will be returned back to us. We're just waiting, but we're not going to wait with our hands underneath our bottoms. We're not sitting on our hands waiting for these people, but we know that everything is being reversed. We know that currencies are being revalued. We know this. We talk about it in a private group. We know that President Trump is working, thank you for the Cash App gift, to ensure that countries are on a level playing field. We just talked about it. Things are happening. We know that NASARA is being implemented, which is why thousands of IRS workers were laid off. Who was that? Thank you so much. Kevin, God bless you. I appreciate the Cash App gift. Nose ring and pineal secular. You agree? Well, there are many people reporting from Haiti that's saying that things are being cleaned up. That Haiti is a beautiful country. Kingdom in Me says, what will become of the Haitians? Their nation is still a mess. Well, many of the Haitians that came here, they now have skills. They have money that they've accumulated from the wealth that they've, accumulated here in America. Some of them have gotten college education and degrees. Some of them have gotten married, so they have spouses. All of these things and resources that they've learned or gleaned from while being in America. Now, when they go back to their homeland, they can utilize their skills to rebuild their nations, and they can put pressure on their own government to clean up their nation, not just Haiti, all nations. Because remember, a lot of people, that foreign nationals that are here, have been putting pressure on Donald Trump and Trump's administration, by doing their protests and saying we need change here, we need to be treated fairly. That same energy that's been used here to force us to keep them here, and to force America and the Trump administration to keep them here, even though they've overstayed their visas, that same energy can be utilized to pressure their leaders. The skills that they glean from here can help their country. It's an amazing time to be alive. I'm really happy for everybody that's able to go back home and build up their nation. What an amazing time to be alive. What else is going to happen is that they too will enjoy their sovereign wealth funds. All nations have them, they just haven't been released. And they will receive what's called GSARA benefits, Global Economic Security and Reformation Act. That's the global version of the NASARA benefits. So they can clean up their country, pressure their government, and they will enjoy wealth from their sovereign wealth fund. You're welcome. That was a great question. Again, some of them are saying, reporting from Haiti about how beautiful parts of Haiti is and how it's great to be back. But just imagine the USD taking the money that you got here and putting it there in a developing nation. Imagine what you could do. Imagine the food you can grow. That's wonderful. Somalians, refugees are being returned because they have a sovereign wealth fund provided by, drum roll, the United States. Thank you, Jeffrey. Jeffrey saying a lot of people that's returning back home have had their economy subsidized by the United States of America, and they have resources. Yeah, the ones, the Haitians and other people that overstayed their visas or that they're temporary protected. Remember, the TPS is a temporary protective status. The T in TPS is temporary protective status. There were terms and conditions that people that came here agreed to. They agreed that the status would be temporary. They agreed they would be given certain privileges while they're here. But these options and opportunities to be here, they weren't lawful pathways to permanent residency. They understood the terms and conditions. They agreed to it. So the United States government used their discrepancy to determine how long temporary was. They agreed to it. The foreign nationals agreed to it. And now they're using their discrepancy to say the time is up. Temporary. When people get online and they protest or they have these protest rallies, they say TPS. No, it's not fair. TPS. Just use the whole phrase so people can know that T in temporary T, the T in the TPS is temporary protective status. They're going to be all right. They're going to be all right. I have confidence in them. When they were using the energy to say that Americans were lazy and they take all the jobs we don't want to take and we need to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps. And their country is so amazing and so great and they wave their flag because it's just so great. I believe them. I believe their countries are great. I believe they have a lot of energy and they work really hard. Now, do they work harder than Americans? I beg to differ, but that's what many people said. Now they can take that energy back home and make it great. I'm so happy for them that they'll have an opportunity to do that. Thank you. Americans will receive a stimulus called Universal High Income, and we've spoken about that. So with AI now taking over many jobs, artificial intelligence, we're going to have a production of abundance. We're going to have abundance now, production of beautiful, amazing things with advanced technology that's been implemented by artificial intelligence. So now you have to remedy the people for that. The remedy is universal high income. Okay. Oh, thank you. Kingdom in Me says, my daughter-in-law is Haitian and has 2 children. My son is American. I don't want her to take my grandchildren. Oh, but I don't want them to lose their mother either. Oh, Kingdom in Me. Oh my goodness. Yeah, the grandbabies leaving you is going to be very, very challenging if they do leave. We hope that, something comes of that. Separating families is hard. And the thing is, like when we go to different nations and they come to our country, that is something we have to do. You have to, before you make decisions, sometimes you have to think, what are the foreseeable consequences or possible consequences? And sometimes got to count up the cost. If we have children and we're on temporary protected status, what happens if that temporary ever runs out? So I wish the best for your family. I'm a grandma, girl. Somebody took my grandchildren. But you're American, sis. So hopefully you'll be able to go in and out as often as you can. Hopefully the grandchildren won't go because they are part hers, but they are American. The good thing for her is if she leaves them there, she knows that her children will have benefits as well because your son is American. That's tough, sis. Oh, Jeffrey said Somalians are rushing back home.
Okay.
He's part Somalian. He's like, they need to go home. Somalia has been partially liberated. Did you know that about your country? We should do that for a project. Report on what's going on in Somalia. Now, you're part Somalian, and yet when we talk about illegal immigration, people coming here and they're overstaying their visas, you have a stance on that. How do you feel as an 8-year-old that you're American, you're part Somalian, when you say people that are here on temporary status or their visas run out? What do you feel? How do you feel about that?
Hmm?
How do you feel about if people stay in the country and their visas have run out, their time period for being here runs out? What happens?
Um, they going back home.
They're going back home.
I don't know. Just go take a flight to Somalia.
He says they should go back home because he can always take a flight to Somalia. Okay, that's pretty mature. You don't get all emotional about it. Okay.
People are people.
Mm.
They ain't related to me. They could do anything. They could grab me.
Well, some of Somalians are related to you.
Some of them.
Mm-hmm. What if they have to go back home?
Like my dad.
Mm-hmm. Then think about that. We'll talk about that offline because that's a possibility.
No.
We'll talk about it. You said you can always fly there. Okay.
So as soon as I get a passport.
Oh yeah, I think mommy's working on that.
Ooh.
Yeah. Thank you for praying for me. Okay, I'll do that. Oh, Kingdom in me says, I'll never go to Haiti. My son serves in the military. He should have thought things through. Ooh, before he had a baby by a Haitian. Ooh, Kingdom in me, you not playing. You like should have thought things through before you made certain decisions. I hear you, sister. Wow. Yes, we will receive a stimulus called Universal High. Y'all ready for me? Did y'all write that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What are you thinking, my love? So let's just we'll end with this universal high income. Somebody asked, will Americans receive a stipend? Some people ask, will we receive NASARA benefits? You can look at my video called NASARA. So here are the benefits of NASARA. Universal high income is a futuristic economic concept popularized by Elon Musk, proposing that advancements in AI and robotics will create an age of extreme abundance. Unlike universal basic income, which covers only basic living expenses, universal high income would provide steady, high-level federal checks, making material abundance available to everyone. So they're calling it federal checks. I'm saying it's coming from the Sovereign Wealth Fund and coming from the trust that you already have here in America and abroad. They have trust already. So they're saying that that universal high income is a futuristic economic concept, but it's not something it wasn't coined by Elon. It was popularized by Elon Musk because it was already a concept that economists were saying will happen once AI takes over those jobs. There's a theory behind it, though, that says automation will vastly outpace traditional economic scarcity and create a system where robots and AI, artificial intelligence, generate goods and services at such a high scale that they outstrip the money supply, effectively preventing inflation. So Musk and economists envision a society where work is purely optional, comparing it to playing a video game or pursuing a hobby, while humanity experiences universal prosperity. This is the same thing we've been talking about when we've done our videos on the National Economic Security and Reformation Act. We said that act was passed into law in 2000, the NASARA JASARA, stating that when time, it was supposed to be announced on September 11, 2001. Now we're in the 25th anniversary year of 9/11, but 9/11 is when NASARA was supposed to be announced from the Pentagon. The NASARA benefits show something that is similar to what we're talking about with the universal basic income, universal high income. Now, I also did a video on universal high income versus universal basic income. Universal basic income was the template that was used. It was experimentation to see how people would do if they're given money to help take care of their basic needs. They're still doing universal basic income programs all across America, but that only covered your basic needs. Now we're going to have universal high income, which will enable you to actually enjoy a life of luxury. Just like the Jetsons cartoon. By the way, what's that? There's a company
What is it?
what's that company that's supposed to come out with the movie, The Jetsons? Warner Brothers is supposed to come out with a movie called The Jetsons in 2026. Y'all can look it up. There are many different videos that talk about it. So I'm gonna leave you with this because I've been talking about NESARA since 2017 under my first channel, the one that got taken down many times and now has been resurrected and finally monetized. Here's my video on NESARA 101, Wealth and Prosperity for Everyone. In that video, I share the benefits of NESARA, zeroing out credit card, mortgages, and other bank debt due to illegal banking practices. That includes student loan debts, which, by the way, recently I reported 33,000 people had their student loan debts dissolved. That people brought claims against these banking systems that were enacting predatory lending policies. They took banking systems to court. The United States Department of Education, people weren't playing. And so 33,000 people have had their student loans discharged. That reminds me of NESARA and other people. We all will have our loans dissolved because of the nefarious banking practices. Okay, they set the precedent. Zero out credit cards, abolish income tax, abolish the IRS. Number 4, increase benefits to senior citizens. They're talking about that now. Return constitutional law, reestablish new presidential and congressional elections, monitor elections and prevents illegal elections, creates new United States Treasury currency notes. And that leads me to what happened just a few months ago when the United States Treasury agreed with Trump's plan to phase out all paper currency and use gold and digital currencies instead. Let me see. Oh, hold on. With Trump to phase out, I'm going to show you this, out paper currency and use gold. Looking up that article, I reported on all this, but that happened in April. Okay. I just want to show you that the SAR is happening right now. What else? I hope you all can see this. Restores financial privacy, initiates the new Treasury banking system in alignment with constitutional law. We already know about banks becoming Basel III and Basel IV compliant. In my private group, I have a video that says banks are ready for currency exchanges. And I talked about how they're Basel compliant, how they have foreign currencies in their coffers, and why and how we know they're ready for currency exchanges. It's in a private group. Restore financial privacy, retrain all judges and attorneys in constitutional law, cease all aggression militarily, worldwide. Remember that Project Sandman, 209 nations agreed to world peace. Initiate first phase of worldwide prosperity distribution of vast wealth that has been accumulating for many decades. That's why I say we should accumulate wealth, not just for our family and our posterity, but you never know what state humanity will find themselves in the future. So if we have wealth set aside and trust, you can say, I have this amount that's allotted for my family and my bloodline, but also for the human population. That's where the King Solomon Trust come in, the Saint Germain Trust, the Rodriguez Trust, ancient dynasties, ancient dragon society. They've been accumulating wealth over millennium. Release enormous sums of money for humanitarian purposes. I have a video in my private group just for private members on how to create a humanitarian program. I have one in my public group where Gold Star Mother Susan Price and I go over how to create humanitarian projects. You put humanitarian projects in the search engine of my YouTube channels. and those will pop up. But in a private group, I have a condensed video that's easy to follow. That's about 30 minutes that shares exactly what you need to do in terms of how to create humanitarian projects. Enables the release of new technology such as free energy devices, pollution cleanup, sonic healing, reduces the work week to 20 hours per week or less. They're already talking about that now. We've been talking about that since 2017. Why? You won't need to work when AI takes over and mass produce, and when all this money is released into the global economy. And even before we were talking about AI in 2017, people were like, if everybody's wealthy, who's going to work? I said, you're going to have robots to do it, like the Jetsons. That's why they showed us that in the 1970s. They were seeding into our consciousness that we're going to go back to being extremely wealthy, like the world was, like Turtle Island was, like Tamaria was, before nefarious entities overtook the world and enslaved humanity. It's going to give everyone 21 plus at least or about $100,000 per month for 11 years, or up to 20 million into a non-interest bearing account. We're all going to have wealth all across the globe. I'm calling that universal high income. Many nations already do it. Middle Eastern or oil rich nations already give their people a significant amount of money per month. They already give them free access to health care and education because they're oil rich. They share the wealth. President Trump, when he came back in 2025, said other nations already have a sovereign wealth fund. So I'm creating that for Americans. That's it, family. Thank you so much for your time, for your energy. I love you and I appreciate you. Chief Mack and I are supposed to go live sometime today to talk about some things he wants to bring to the Soul Tribe. I'm not sure, probably this evening. This is Thursday. I don't know what we're going to talk about Friday, but on the weekend, we're going to talk with economist Dex Lattimore. He has a degree in economics with an emphasis in international trade. He's also, he deals with, he has different licenses in the financial industry. He's going to talk about and discuss why we see whales moving money, big people, billionaires. Why do we see them moving money? Why do most people don't even see them moving money? And where is the money going? And what are the implications for us? Because typically when they move money, they're making a statement. Economist Dex Lattimore, the economist on the Soul Tribe, is going to talk to us about that here on in the public group first, and then he's going to go in detail in the private group. So if you're interested in joining a private group, I'm going to put this in the comment section. You can also hit join on any of my videos, and you will follow the prompts and you'll be in and join a private group here. We need to go. Y'all dressed and ready, babies?
Yes, here's a flower. Here's some flowers.
Thank you, grandson. This is what I'm having with. Always a pleasure. Oh, I love you back, Jeffrey. Thank you. Thank you. All right. If y'all ready, we can go, babies.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, we have a new member. Thank you for joining us, Stanley. God bless you. Welcome. We're excited to have you. We have so many videos in the membership only section that you will really enjoy about currencies, banking protocol for the currency exchange, what's going on in many of the countries that we're investing in, like Iraq, Venezuela, Vietnam, Zimbabwe, and others. Traditional and non-traditional methods of investing and other things. Jeffrey's a member of our group. If anybody's a member of the private group and you can share some information, like, just let them know if it's worth it, or, whatever you think they should know about the private group. You'll be on, it's going to be on fire. Ty Jeffrey says the next private group will be on fire. Please join and support our queen, $ Mama Kia 13, Cash App. Thank you. I love you so much. Jeffrey contributes significantly to the private group. Any more questions before we leave? My grandbabies are ready. I'm hungry. I wanted to make some spaghetti.
Oh, mommy said she's going to make some spaghetti.
She's going to make the spaghetti. Your life path number is 9. Ooh, 9 is a very high vibrational number. Your mom's life path number is 9. Mine is 8. Mine is My 8 is represents abundance, prosperity, and wealth. You know, 8, that I guess that's probably why I talk about wealth. So you can look at a lifetime, you can look at a numerology book, or you can look at a life path number calculator. The 9s are highly intuitive and compassionate. The number 9 has a very significant meaning because it's the end of one era and the beginning of something new. It's the last number from 0 to 9 is the last number, and it's the beginning of something new. Life path 9s are very creative, resourceful, and let me see if I can find something about life path 9s. Let's see. The life path 9 is a philanthropist and a humanitarian. If you're a 9, you're socially conscious and deeply concerned about the state of the world. You have compassion and idealism. You have global awareness and you want to protect all. That's what one app says. I just know that number, it has the highest frequency. Oh, it says 9 represents humanitarian in numerology. You're intuitive. You teach. I'll do a deep dive into it so we can talk about it later, and I'll be able to spend more time with you. A life path number. Hi, Tony. It's good to see you. Yeah, this is my honors, mother and son's my grandbaby, my grandson, my great son, my grandson. So life path number, if you want to know what your life path number is, the path that the trajectory of your life is likely meant to go on, what you're supposed to be doing in life, then add up the numbers of your birth. So you can look it up on Google, how to calculate my life path number. If you were born November 1st, 1968, you would add 1 plus 1 because November is 11. 1 plus 1, that's 2. The first is 1, plus 1 is 3. I said 1967. 3 plus
1968.
1968. Okay, 11, 1, 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 1, or that's 3. And then another one in the 1968 is 4, plus 9 is 13, plus 6 is 19, plus 8 is 27, I believe. So you get 27, then you add those final two numbers. 2 plus 7 is 9. Then your life path number is 9. What are the odds that will happen? And then you look it up on a calculator, life path number calculator, to determine what that frequency is. But look at several of them so that you can implement in your life what resonates with you. It should resonate with you. My life path number is 8, which means it's the infinity symbol, which also is a symbol of wealth, prosperity, and abundance. Yours is 1. You're a leader. Ooh, Tesla. Your Tesla numbers are 369. Birthday is also important. Days of the month, our gifts and natural tools to assist us on our journey. 9 is meant to uplift others. Thank you, Julian. We appreciate you sharing that. That's why they said it's the number of humanitarians. Wow. So, Jeffrey, your number says that you are meant to uplift others. That's probably why you're in this community and why you're invested and why you have humanitarian projects, because you're going to do amazing things for people. I just want people to see. So, oh, that one's not showing. So, okay, family, you were about to ask how to find out your life path number, but I answered as you were about to type it. So you thanked me beforehand. You're welcome. Hello. Hello. Thank you for saying I'm beautiful. You're 1968. Who's that 1968? Is that you, Tony? Me too. You're welcome. 7/11, 1968. Wow, that's beautiful. All right, family, we're going to get out of here. I hope the show was beneficial to you. We'll see you later on today, probably this evening with Chief Mac. And any of you that join the private group, please know that we're going to have a show this weekend. We have many videos that we've reported that shares all that we've reported on. please feel free to join a private panel. We love you so much and appreciate all of you that are members. Also, thank you to all of you that sent me a gift, a Cash App donation. Thank you for supporting my work. And the book will be out very, very soon. I love y'all so much. All right, family, that's a wrap. Hope you enjoy the music. I'm still here if you have questions.
Showing what we all can do.
Hey. Hey. I want to hear you sing.
So try rising, hear her call, raising vibrations for one and all. Like the king shows the way to a bright new day.
You're welcome.
So try rising, hear her call,
Vibrations for one and all. Dr. Kia lights the way to a new and brighter day.
You're welcome. My name is Dr. Kia Pruitt. I trust that I've said something to raise your vibrations and inspire you to create the most amazing, magnificent life that you desire and deserve. Go out and have a great day, family. In fact, make it a great day. Thank you.
Ready.
If it isn't already, I like that. Make it a great day if it isn't already, because they might be already having a great day. Thank you, grandson. We love you. Bye-bye. Say bye, grandson.
Bye.
See you later, family.
Shining.